everything that has to do with honest, real, open candor, where we discuss real topics and figure out how to improve the quality of our life and enhance our well-being. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is John Kirus, for those who don't know, and I'm going to be your host for tonight. So we got a lot of interesting things going on. I am trying a new way to connect with you all. So let's see how it works today and see how many awesome viewers we have and people logged on. Welcome, 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 welcome. We'll give it just a minute or two as we wait for everyone to jump on the show. I think we have a couple of guests today, which will be interesting, to be honest. I don't know what I just said right now, trite instead of quite. Very excited to see you guys. How was your week? I hope you had a great week. I hope you had a good time, a productive week, a powerful week, an engaging week, an interesting week, a dynamic week, and a beautiful week. This is really what we're looking for. We're looking for some enhancements, engagements, developments, growth, and hopefully that's going to be something that's going to happen on the show today. So let's take a look. I have someone logged on StreamYard. You're going to see me looking a little bit to the left as I use double screens. Hello, thank you for joining. You call yourself Classy Wears What? That's pretty cool, except that your camera and mic are not connected, so I can't really invite you into the show. So if you could just connect your mic, that would be great. Can you hear me now? There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get started. So over the past couple of weeks, I've gotten some feedback from you guys telling me about how to make the show very, very interesting and much more engaging. So right now, I have 3 cameras running at the same time. Some of you are watching me on my Facebook page and YouTube. Others are watching on Facebook Live and Instagram Live. And hopefully, this is going to be a positive and interesting experience for you all. Thank you very much for that. So the topic today is going to be about developing our charisma and enhancing and increasing our capacity to deliver phenomenal results when we are communicating with people. Let me just fix the camera, make this look good for everybody. Hi, May, how are you? Hazel, how are you? Imad, how are you? How's everybody doing? So wonderful to see you guys all. Thank you so much for joining. In order to get into the topic, so what is charisma specifically? And this is where sometimes people have different ideas of what charisma can actually be. So what I'd like to do is kind of invite you to just write down very quickly what you think charisma is, okay? So what is charisma and what does charisma mean? And what's the importance of charisma? So if you were to define charisma right now, what would you say it is? Just go ahead and write one word, couple of words, anything you want on the chat. What is charisma to you? Let's wait till we get some responses. Taking a look at a couple of responses. Let me just tell her, connect your cam and mic, please, so you can join the show. Thank you. All right. Hi, Jihad. How are you? So let's take a look at our first response for today. Your way of having this air about you that will make someone attracted towards your identity. All right, yeah. See, it's an interesting word to use. So an air, like having an air around you. So it's that atmosphere that surrounds you, right? I don't want this to be misunderstood. All right, attractiveness, good energy, the way to attract people. All right, what else? What else would you say about charisma? What else is interesting for you? What would you say is the importance of charisma in your life? To be able to reach others' hearts deeply. It's really interesting. So if you guys take a look at your responses, the majority of you are saying that charisma is about connecting with people, right? And impacting and influencing these people in a positive and engaging way. And I see power to influence. I see caring about people, connecting to their hearts, reaching out to them, having like an ambiance about you that makes things interesting. You don't play, it just comes out when you embody it. So you're saying basically that charisma is just something that you embody. What does it mean to embody charisma per se? Like, what is that actually? How do we embody charisma in general? Is it you wake up one morning, you're like, aha, I'm charismatic. Is that what you do? Omar is saying a charm that inspires others. Okay, Jihad, having a state of presence. So these are really awesome responses, guys, and I really appreciate your thoughts. And I'm just wondering, how do you apply that? So if you woke up someday and you didn't feel you had that same charisma that you usually have, that charm, that magic about you, that energy, that whatever it is that you want to call it. So what's a system to always having charisma available on command? How would you guys do that? Any ideas? Thank you for all the hearts and the comments and the feedback and etc. I really appreciate it, guys. How would you do that? How are you gonna kind of stimulate charisma for yourself on command? Don't mind my eyes going all over the place. I have cameras everywhere right now, and I'm testing a new way to communicate to you all. So what do you think? What's the process for that? So Rosie, you're saying attracting attention and admiration of others. All right. How do you do that? I'd like to move from what charisma is, if you don't mind, to moving towards how do we embody charisma? How do we exude or express charm and interest? How do we engage people in a way that makes them feel like they want to be around us? What do you think? Ren, to stimulate the charisma, I guess the process should start from, and then I'm waiting for the next part. Hazel Greens, perhaps honoring your truth, identity, believing that you are that without exactly having it as a goal and more as a system you function upon. Okay. So Ren, you're saying keeping a positive attitude, but is that something that you can do all the time? So what I'm saying is, what about those days, Hazel Greens, that you don't have that sense of connection with yourself? Has that happened? What about the days when you've had a tough week and things aren't going the way they're supposed to be going? What about the days when you guys wake up and you're not actually physically feeling well, or you're going towards let's say an appointment or an interview or doing something that's outside of your comfort zone? So how do you increase charisma then? What's the process? So what I want to share with you in today's talk is what charisma really is and how we can practice charisma, enhance it, build it into a habit, into a way of being, and then actually enhance and apply it in different circumstances. Because if you think about charisma, is it the same charisma that applies when you're in a leadership position? So leadership charisma. Or is it the same charisma that applies when, for example, you're flirting in a relationship? Or dating, or trying to attract someone that you're interested in? Or is it the same charisma when you're in a situation that's a social gathering and you just want to engage people and be interesting, like at a social party or something where it's important for you to have a good impression for either your work or your personal life? Or maybe you just want to engage with people and build stronger friendships and ensure that people like you and enjoy spending time with you. What if it's using a medium that you're not comfortable with? Maybe you're not comfortable on camera. A lot of people are afraid of public speaking. A lot of people are afraid of presentations. A lot of people are afraid of presenting themselves on camera the way I do, and many others, of course. And they feel a lot of judgment there. So let's talk a little bit about what are the barriers to charisma and how do we go about getting a whole lot of it and in the right way. Because a lot of people think they have charisma and then they apply it and then it's actually not really charisma. It's more like annoyance or irritation or maybe even a sense of stickiness, or you just say t'il, like in Arabic, you say t'il, he's heavy, just he's pushy, he's into my space, right? So first thing I want to talk to you about is the following. First, let's define charisma to understand whether charisma is valuable for us or not. So pretty much everything we do in life revolves around people, whether it's something that we're giving or something that we're taking or receiving, and whether we're hanging out with people or not. And I think being locked down in COVID has really gotten us to understand that having human connection is a very important thing, and it's essential to our livelihood. It's not just essential on a psychological level, it's also essential on a biological level, because touch is part of charisma. the right type of touch. And that ultimately affects our biochemistry, it affects the way we feel, it affects the way we think, it affects the way we function, and it affects our health, it affects our internal organs. And this is very, very important. So starting off, charisma, for me personally, is when you make other people feel really good when they're spending time being around you. Okay? So in very simple terms, charisma, okay, is a sort of feeling, okay, or state that you impress upon others when they're around you. And they get that state from the interaction that they experience with you, whether it's a direct interaction or an indirect interaction. So you notice sometimes people walk into a space and they have this aura about them, right? They say, and this person has the X factor or has charisma, they're charismatic. And it's not really so much that they're charismatic, because if you took a person and you got that person to walk into a mall and there were a lot of people and these people reacted to that person, you go, okay, this guy or this lady is charismatic. But then imagine that that mall was completely empty and that person walked into the mall and you were watching them, but there was just absolutely no one to interact with. The chances that you're going to see them as deeply charismatic will be less, because we know people are charismatic by the effect that they have on those around them. All right? So that means that if you're watching me right now and you believe that I'm partially charismatic or extremely charismatic, whatever scoring you give me from 0 to 10, it's probably because it's a direct effect of how you feel when you're watching me on camera and how I am interacting with you. And we're going to talk about that part. So there is an individual part to it, an internal charisma, and there is an external part to it, an external charisma, okay? Omar is saying, first we must answer very important questions. Can charisma be acquired, or is it either born with us or not? It can definitely and most certainly be acquired, okay? Because charisma is a personality trait and yet also a skill and competency that you build. So I'm going to share with you a process for breaking down how we can be more charismatic by paying attention and leveraging what we already have, but doing it in the right way, okay? The way that's most impactful for the human brain and for people in general. So let's start off with this, all right? On the first level, let's talk about how we can use charisma to impact people in a powerful way. To do that, we must first start with our understanding of ourselves. So let me talk to you about people who are uncharismatic usually. Perfectionists don't tend to be very charismatic, okay? And I used to be a heavy perfectionist. And we are born with an acquired programming from our parents, all right, and the world around you. So as you grow, as you study in school, as you experience parenting, as you go through different stages of your life, you're going to pick up what we call mental models or mental programs. So these are like apps that are downloaded into your system. And these apps tell you something about yourself that keeps replaying over and over and over and over again. What are they? Primarily, first of all, you can have an app that talks to you about your sense of self-worth. So if you believe that you are valuable, irrelevant of who you are as a person, irrelevant of what you do as a person, then that's a really good thing to have. But for individuals who've grown up with parents who've told them, for example, you're an idiot, you're a donkey, you're useless, انت حمار, انت ما بتسوى, all these things, unfortunately, within our psyche, within our subconscious mind, there's going to be a programming, most probably, that will play out at certain times in our life that affects how we perceive ourselves, okay? And that perception of ourselves very much affects our charisma. Because if you notice, charismatic people aren't people that are needy, yeah? So ما عندهم حاجة, they're not looking for attention because they're self-satisfied. And even if they aren't, you fake it in the beginning for a while. So you'll notice that a charismatic person, to an extent, is someone who is very comfortable in their own skin. They've come to terms with who they are and they are happy and content with who they are, irrelevant of their performance. Whereas perfectionists and people who have suffered from feeling less valued, received less affection during their childhood, have dealt with situations where they were told that they weren't good enough, tend to develop some requirements to be more of a perfectionist. And in a sense, will always feel like they have something to prove. Nobody likes to be around someone who has something to prove. Because then, unfortunately, the end effect of that is that even if you're right, everyone else around you feels like they're less. And so that becomes completely uncharismatic, even though the intention is to impress people, and you might with your skill sets, but definitely not with your human skill sets. Okay, so I could be, let's say, the best expert in human development in the world, and I'd have all the theories and all the science right. But if you didn't feel safe around me, if you didn't feel like you were happier, fuller, more content, and like I valued who you are as you are and expected you and accepted you as you are, then that's going to definitely affect my capacity to impact you in a charismatic way. Okay, so here are some key things to keep in mind. First of all, when you communicate with people, I can say the first thing that makes people charismatic is being fun. All right, and when I say fun, you don't want to overdo it, but you also don't want to take life too seriously. Okay, this was one of the main reasons why I decided last year that I no longer wanted to do a lot of live videos, the kind of live videos I'm doing with you here, which is completely unscripted. All right, wearing a shirt and a blazer, because I really felt like the whole point of Honest Conversations is that you guys can just watch a show while you're, drinking your cup of tea or your coffee in your PJs at your own comfort, in your own safe space. And for me to also be the same, because if I can't feel comfortable, then I'm not going to be able to project that emotion and that feeling for you. So if I was very suity and stiff and tight and all professional and wearing a Rolex or whatever it is, and I'm this expert who understands the world, this image that we've developed at some point in marketing, coaches and experts in the field, okay, whether it's training, developing, mentoring, coaching, whatever it is a very curious kind of a predicament. And I used to be one of those individuals who fell for that trap because I thought that's what communicates professionalism. And now I've come to understand that that's actually really retarded. Okay, and that's not meant in a disrespectful way to anyone, so please don't get sensitive in my show. The second thing is I've been searching right now for a good quality green screen where I don't have to pay $200-300, all right, to put behind me, so I could get rid of this background for you guys, because this is my training background. And so I could start to put some really fun and dynamic backgrounds for you, and so that the show could continue to be more relaxed. Because I've really come to understand that I want you to feel really comfortable with communicating with me and with us exchanging ideas and thoughts. So being fun, being high energy, being genuine, being positive, just deciding to show up and enjoy this session will help to make me or any other person who's communicating in any context, whether in a group or on a camera, more charismatic. I think the second thing is doing things that people don't expect, but doing it in a fun way, not an extreme way. So if people expect you to be very serious all the time and you're not, that kind of triggers people's curiosity about you, and that makes you charismatic, because people like to be around people they need to figure out. But not figure out because it scares them or they're concerned about their safety, but figures out because it generally triggers their prefrontal cortex and makes them go, okay, what's this guy's story? Or what's this girl's story? Why is it that people, who spend time around her are always laughing? Why is she so funny? Because people want to feel good. So they're going to spend time with people that make them laugh, or the people that make them smile, or people that elevate their energy when they're around them. So the more you can enhance people's feelings and improve people's feelings, the more charismatic you're generally going to be. I think another thing that charismatic people tend to do is they tend to elevate others around them. So you'll notice that people who are charismatic don't bring other people down so that they could shine, all right? So they don't overtalk people. They tend to listen a lot more. They'll say fun comments. They don't take themselves very, very seriously. They kind of communicate to people like they're already a family. So sometimes I've gotten this comment in countries that are more northern in Europe, where they'll tell me, you're a little bit weird. I'm used to it here in Lebanon or in other areas of the Arab world. When I meet someone, and I just act like we've been friends forever, and they're like, it's so weird because I feel like I've been your friend forever, but yet we don't even know each other. And people will tell me, that's a kind of weird feeling. But they also look in my eyes and they see that I'm genuine, okay? And this genuinity is what helps normalize the process, and also the fact that I'm like this with everybody. So let me give you an example of this with touchy people. If you're a guy and you're sitting in your friend's home and then a pretty girl walks in, and you look at her and you're like, wow, okay, this is a very attractive girl and I want to be around her. And then you start getting touchy, but only touchy with her, and you haven't developed that connection yet, you're a creep. Okay, you're going to come off as very creepy, very touchy, very pervy, right? That's definitely not what you want to do. But if you're generally touchy with everyone in the group, you're just a generally touchy guy, and this is, of course, assuming that the culture permits this. Okay, so always keep culture in mind. But in Lebanon, that's kind of normal, putting your hand on your best friend's shoulder, saying, "What's up, buddy?" Handshaking, fist bumping, whatever it is, or even gentle touches with ladies in a very respectful way, also knowing where to touch. Okay, no weird stuff. Then it's gonna be fine. People will feel very comfortable with you because that's the norm of your behavior, and they will recognize that this is being done with everybody, not just with this specific individual pointing her out, okay, and making things very weird for her and for you. So there's nothing wrong with touch, because touch is a great way to establish trust, and it's a great way to establish warmth and intimacy, and it's a great way to make people feel good, because you're literally, if they feel safe, touching them and their body's releasing a ton of oxytocin, which is a great neurotransmitter to have. But on the other end, if you're overdoing it, if you're touching areas that shouldn't be touched, if you're leaning in, if you're, for example, this is the lady or the man, whatever it is, and you're leaning in, you're like, "Hi, I want to tell you," that's really weird. So trust your instinct when you have social distancing. I'm not talking about, COVID. I'm talking about knowing how close you can get to someone and respond to them. Now, if we talk about VAC, like visual, auditory, and kinesthetic in NLP, you'll recognize that kinesthetic people who are more sensual and sensitive, they tend to be a lot more touchy. So that's okay. But keep your distance, guys. Because one time I was working in a company, I was doing some consultancy for a company, and the CEO is a kinesthetic, very touchy guy, very sweet guy, very genuine, very warm. And he's kind of elder, he's around 65 years old. So he was almost like a grandpa, daddy kind of touch. But the weird thing about it is that when he would shake my hand, he'd shake one hand and then put the other hand on top of it, and he'd shake it. And then he'd drag me close towards his chest. So now my hand is here and my body's naturally this close. And it's literally like we're this close. And he starts talking to me, and his breath, the wind from his breath is literally caressing my face. That's too much. And the problem is he would do it for too long. So I would sort of be like, how do I get out of this grip? I need it. And so eventually I developed the excuse of, it's great to see you, I need to use the bathroom. And that was the fastest way for me to escape his touch. Or if I was walking down a corridor and I knew that he wanted to be really caring and warm, I would just say, "Hey, how are you, Habibi? Good? Tamam? God bless you." And I would disappear to the other end of the room, because I knew that the moment this guy grabbed a hold of me, there was no letting go for a really weird and uncomfortable 60 to 90 seconds. And that's just too weird for me. All right. So these are things you want to pay attention to and kind of maybe think about. Jokes are a great way to build charisma, but please keep them short. I'm not someone to advise you on jokes, because I'm horrible at telling jokes. I really am. I've tried my best. But, I have some friends of mine, and they are so funny, and they just say something casual, and it's a funny joke, and they don't even laugh at it, and they just continue on. And that makes them sound and feel like they're really, really confident. So it's a great way also to impact people. I think another thing that you can do is have a lot of high energy. Have you noticed that charismatic people tend to have a really good amount of energy? So they're not individuals who are very slow and very relaxed and very quiet and droopy eyes. I'm not ready to communicate. That definitely does not give charisma. So energy is power, but hyper energy is weakness. So there's a balance between being excited and enthusiastic, and there's a balance between being extreme. So there's a difference between saying, "Hey, it's so great to see you. Wow, you look amazing." And there's a difference, and make sure that it is genuine. You can even get away from, words people tend to say, "Hi, how are you? You look great." Ugh. Great, that's such a horrible word. It's such an overused word. So I would definitely choose something that's much more authentic. So, if I see like a friend of mine and she cut her hair, and to my mind, well, she put an effort to look different, I let her know that she looks good. So I might say, hey, how are you? Wow, your hair looks amazing. That really suits you. It looks fantastic on you. Wow, that's incredible. Genuinely. And then you'll see her light up, her cheeks go red and her eyes like, really? I'm like, yes, it looks so good. It really does. Congratulations. Must feel good to change that up a moment. And then she'll feel so happy. She'll go off, la, 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 and she feels pretty good about herself. So that's charisma, because in her brain, that was a positive experience with John, right? In the same aspect, if you look at someone, you say, wow, you are looking wonderful today. What does that mean? Like, just to compliment for the sake of complimenting. Oh, hello, wonderful. How are you? Great. You look amazing. Great. So what does this really mean? Okay. Ultimately, if it's not real, people are going to sense that lack of genuinity, and it's not going to impact them in the sense that you want it. Another thing I would say is be okay with making fun of yourself. All right. I tend to do that a lot. And I'm not saying that I'm the expert in charisma at all. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just sharing with you things that I've done that tend to work. I find that if I want to be funny and I make fun of myself, people tend to laugh a lot more than my jokes themselves. So I just realized that it's actually a lot easier to do that. Plus, I'm okay with people making fun of me. It doesn't really bother me at all. And that's a sign of strength. When you're in a position where you're really comfortable in your own skin, you're going to get to a point where people are going to be like, okay, it's so fun to play with this individual. They're so open and they're so relaxed. You know these people who crack jokes at everybody, but then when you crack a joke at them, they go into this mode, where like, no, this is not funny. And they take it all personal and they storm out of the room. And that, that's not charisma. That's very, very different. And that's someone who uses sarcasm and repressed anger to kind of lift themselves up at the expense of everybody else. But if everyone's joking and making fun of each other, do it in a way that's not harmful, and know who you're doing it with. Because keep in mind that you can make fun of what they're doing, but just never make fun of who they are, okay? So I try to, if we're cracking jokes, I ask someone, especially when I'm meeting them for the first time or becoming friends, I just say, what's your humor like? Are you a heavy humor person, light humor, ildam? What's the deal? And they start laughing at stuff. Also, I think a really fun way to do stuff, which I tend to do sometimes, but not specifically on the show, but with my friends, is when someone's saying something and they're very serious about it, but it's not a serious topic, but they're just saying it in a serious way, and it sounds funny, if you take that and you build on it into something really obscene and crazy, like something really silly, people will laugh. So let's try to give you an example of this. Hazel Greens, because why saving the fun for the bullies instead? Pretty much. But I mean, if someone walked up to me and said, I really needed to do it today. Okay, that can have 100 different meanings. So sometimes I might look at that person and say, did you now? And they will just crack up laughing. And even though we both know it could have 100 different meanings, but as adults, it's actually quite fun. And people like to joke about that, and they know it's a safe space, so they kind of relax into it, okay? So these are things that you can definitely do, and these will serve you very, very well. I think also it's okay to take sensitive topics and make fun of them in a respectful way. So a lot of times I will try to communicate on the show, or when I'm giving public speaking engagements, that guys, I might say things that are a little bit sensitive in nature. Please know my intention is the best. But it's okay for us to test stuff and have fun with it. And then you'll find that people are okay talking about sensitive stuff without being insulted, because they know that's not the intention. So rarely is someone insulted when they know it's a safe space, even though it's a topic they're sensitive about. But they're much more insulted when they don't know you and they don't know your intention, and they feel that they have to defend their ideas or what they believe and what they believe represents them. I could also say owning what you do is just builds a lot of charisma. So if you're going to do something, do it all the way true to you or not. In 2010, I joined a group called Atelier de Jeu. It was, I think, the second round they did this with Patty, Patricia, and Colleen Bernotti and Patricia Namour. Incredible, amazing, beautiful people. It's still running. I don't know how it's working with COVID right now, but if you check them out, they're really amazing people. They've also had a great group of also really wonderful people. And I learned a lot in the 6 months of that workshop. It was an acting workshop, and we were really getting to know ourselves on the inside. And one of the things they always used to tell me in French was, John, get out of your carapace. And I was like, what the heck is a carapace? And carapace is a turtle shell. Carapace is a turtle shell. Yeah. So the idea is generally that I never really understood for quite a long time what they meant by that until a couple years ago, where I realized that I had designed in my mind an image of how I should be behaving as a professional consultant, coach, mentor, blah, 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 that I kind of felt like I was trapped in my own creation. Have you ever felt that? Where you've created a persona online or publicly that is so structured that doing anything outside of these boundaries tends to actually put you in a position where you're already judging yourself before others judge you. And they've gotten used to this behavior. So when you switch, it's almost like you shook their reality about you. And now they're like, okay, who is this person really? So what I think is the most freeing experience for us as human beings is to let go of our pretenses of who we are and to embrace what our real nature is in a nice, how could I say, package. So to be professional, it's not necessary for you to dress in a suit. That's the branding and the programming that we've been given since we were kids. Wearing a suit will definitely increase the impact, but it depends on what you want to deliver for your audience. It depends what you want to deliver for people around you. So if you're a business person and you're a leader and you want people to feel comfortable around you and your company is not extremely formal, why wear a suit? I don't get it. Ultimately, what you care about are KPIs and metrics. If those KPIs and metrics are high value performance, then why wear a suit? And a lot of people say dress the part because what you wear is going to affect the way you feel. That's true. It is going to affect the way you feel. And the question is, if you wore a suit and it made you feel like you're more of a boss, you're probably compensating for something, first off. Second of all, because bosses, real leaders, build people around them. Real leaders are highly empathetic, not the other way around. They don't dominate, they support, they build, they develop, okay? Second thing is, if you're wearing a suit and everyone else is wearing a suit and you guys wear it in style and you enjoy it as part of the company culture, and ladies too, of course, that's fine. But if you're wearing a suit because it is required by company policy internally, because it is the professional wear, what's the purpose? Why? Why can't people express themselves individually so you have a richer culture, a stronger sense of self-belonging in the organization, which is going to put people in a better mood and they're going to perform a lot better? I don't understand why people in customer service who are on the phone all the time, like in call centers, have to dress up in formal wear. I just don't get it. Respectful wear, yes, but why formal? Why is that necessary? So these are questions that we ask ourselves. To be charismatic, I think it relies on two primary pillars. One is be real, be warm, be open, be caring. So allowing people to spend time with you and to feel safe around you, sense of safety. And two, also at the same point in time, I would probably say that the second thing that's going to serve you really well is your ability to communicate that you are an expert in your field and a professional in your field. So in this sense, by showing that you're human and humble and fun and highly energetic, and at the same point in time that when people ask you a question, you ask them back a question, say, what is it that you would really like to achieve? What was it that you want to benefit from this situation? What do you want to get out of this? Makes them feel so valued that they say, well, I really want to get this. And you ask them, how do you want to get this? How would you like me to serve you? How would you like me to be there for you? And they say, well, I want your advice. Then you didn't just give your advice. You found out how they want to be served and how they want to be supported, and then you did it. That adds so much more value and invites them to be so much more focused with you as an individual, okay? And I think that's what's most important, that people are focused and that when you're spending time with them, you're focused. How many times have you been with individuals and when you're communicating to them and they're communicating to you, you're doing something else on the side? That totally kills charisma, because charisma is when you are actually with that person. Now, there's two ways to do that. I think the primary way is using eye contact, but too much eye contact can be a bit freaky. So if you're not always a person who gives eye contact and then suddenly you're like, okay, that's going to make people very uncomfortable. But if you're someone who always gives eye contact and you give it gently, and you find that person's a little bit vulnerable, and you look away, you give them some space so they can breathe, and then you look back and say, that's so interesting. And you recognize their emotions. I can see that you're stressed. I can see that this is important to you. I can see that you're so passionate about this. I can feel how much energy is just exported from you when you talk about this. I can see you lighting up when you discuss this. People love that. They love the fact that you recognize their state, and that makes them feel very connected to you. And here's the thing. You can't do this by faking it, okay? So only very, very few people are capable of faking this for a while. And so most times we call them narcissists or manipulators or blah, 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 blah. I don't really think that the word narcissist and the word toxic are used in the proper meaning of the word. I think that today there tends to be this trend where everyone says, yeah, well, I was in a toxic relationship. Well, okay, so what was toxic about your relationship? He or she was so needy. So that means they're wounded. That doesn't make the relationship toxic in that sense. That just means that you chose someone who was wounded and ultimately you were both trying to deal with your own wounds. So I don't know if it's okay for us to get to a point where we're so casual about labeling everything and everyone, so quick to judge, so quick to imprint a stamp on what we think is right and wrong. So maybe it wouldn't hurt, maybe it's just a suggestion, to kind of step out of the cliche mode and step out of the need to label and structure everything, because that's a sense of weakness, and kind of step into your own comfort, being okay with being you, like genuinely okay, not faking it to be okay, but actually saying, you know what is my value? So if you're a perfectionist, like I was, okay, and I'm still working on it, it's greatly improved, but you know, it was one of the things I dealt with for a while. In that case, you could recognize that perfectionists tend to be individuals who measure their self-worth by their productivity and by what they do, okay? So if you're in that trap, if you tend to measure your self-worth by what you do, it's a very big mistake, because actually you're worth so much more. Even if you just sat on a couch and you did nothing, you're still very, very valuable, okay? As a human being, you have the ability to impact people, whether you're educated, not educated, male, female, whatever it is. And please, for God's sake, please stop saying things like, this is a recommendation, never a rule, men are like this, or guys are like this, and women are like this. Where did you get it in your head that there is a necessity to separate male and female behavior in general? Men are equally capable of being good-natured as women. Women are equally capable of being empathetic, caring, supportive, reliable as men. So the human elements that make us who we are fully capable, whether we're a woman or a man, irrelevant of our biology. It's just biology, okay? We're fully capable of both. So you can be charismatic as a woman or as a man, so long as you make people around you feel pretty good. That has nothing to do with your female or male organs. It has to do with your personal choices, with your character, with your values. So why is it that we tend to always separate and subdivide things? Well, we do that for a primary reason. We do that because it feels safer. We do that because it allows us to create structure around us so that we can survive the potential of danger. So we have groups that we can rely on. Do you think that a lion worries much about that? So have you ever seen a lion deeply worried, like a male lion, one of those lazy lions that sits in the African Sahara, who's just chilled out, kind of lazily moving his tail and yawning, and he looks, and there's all these female lions running around, and he's looking around and he sees a giraffe walking by or an elephant walking by. Do you see him concerned about what the elephant's sex is, whether it's a male or female, or the people around him, or any of these things, or he's just very chilled out and comfortable in his environment? So an alpha position, whether it's a man or a woman, tends to be very relaxed. They even lay back. They're kind of laid back in their communication. They're kind of chilled out. They're quite comfortable with being relaxed. And in their process of being relaxed, being comfortable, relaxing, chilling out, they make you relaxed. And even in many cases, their voice is much deeper and more comfortable and more relaxed. And so you tend to feel very calm. And even when things go crazy, you'll find that they are very contained. And they pause a lot. And they take their time to contemplate. There's never really a rush. It's almost like they're not very fazed by what's going on. That's a sense of charisma. Okay? So that's also a way for you to project a sense of powerful charisma by maintaining a certain standard of being. You'll never see James Bond going, "Oh my God, there's a bomb." You'll see James Bond go, That's probably the maximum reaction you'll get out of him. And then suddenly he has a plan. So what I'm trying to say to you is, in very simple terms, just as a quick recap, and we're going to end for today because I've decided to start to shorten these lives a little bit more. You're going to start to see a lot of small videos coming out, hopefully, God willing, soon. Let me just take Hazel Green Eyes, flowing with who you are and coming across instead of projecting resistance upon your life. Yeah, and probably using very simple language. So I would recommend that if you want people to like you, don't use very complex language, because if people have a hard time trying to understand what it is that you're saying, then you're going to make them tired because they're going to have to use their brain power a lot. So if you're a marketeer, or if you're a graphic designer, or if you're a race car driver, or if you're a lawyer, or if you're a doctor, whatever it is, if you want people around you to like you, don't use your technical language, because that's your own internal language in your field. Use a language that everyone can get along with. Use words that people are going to understand. And use a language that everyone around you is talking. So إذا أنا بجروب عربي بحكي عربي. And if I'm in an English group or I'm communicating to an international crowd, I'm going to speak in English. So it very much depends on who your audience is. But ultimately, just kind of wrapping up our talk for today. So making others feel better around you, definitely something to do. Being comfortable in your own skin, all right? Know your worth and value. Don't measure yourself by external standards, but measure yourself by internal standards. It's not what you do, it's how you do it that's a lot more important. And it doesn't necessarily need to be perfect. That's why I've posted something before. I wrote a progress over perfection. It's much more important to move forward and do things. Be okay with letting go of the alpha position and kind of giving it out to others. They'll more likely try things out and give it back to you, at which point you'll become even more of an alpha, because in that situation, they've recognized your worth and your capacity and your skill set. Always invite people to feel safe. That sense of safety has such a big impact on people's openness. It takes them out of the reptilian brain, straight to the prefrontal cortex. We use a lot of humor, make things fun for people, bring a lot of energy into the experience. It can still be very calm energy, just fun energy, Be comfortable with yourself. Be okay to make fun with yourself. Flirt with people around you, the world itself, just everyone. Engage in fun communication or conversation. So it's almost like a playful state, okay? Because we need that. Not everything has to be so serious all the time. Get comfortable with worst case scenarios. So if you're in a situation where you're afraid that when you're talking, people are not going to be so excited about what you're saying, be okay with that, all right? Just imagine the scenario, be okay with that outcome, and then just go do the talk, and you're going to notice that people are going to react to you much better because they're going to feel that you're very relaxed. Have you noticed how sometimes if you're a girl or you're a guy and you're dating someone, now everyone wants to date you? So if you're in a relationship with a girl and you're a guy, suddenly so many girls start hitting on you. And if you're a girl who's in a relationship with a guy, well, guys are always going to hit on you. So bottom line, guys, we're like that, men. So what happens is, in this case, is you're actually going to give off an energy that you're comfortable, you're okay. And that gives off an a strong sense of charisma. When people talk to you, be focused on them. Be really with them in the moment. Give them your attention, because that makes them feel so special and so valuable. Be okay making fun of yourself. What else did I talk about? Listen to their thoughts and value them. So don't ever say yes, but, oh, la, bas. Because when you say yes, but, or la, bas, you're actually saying, right, whatever you said was completely useless to me. Now I'm going to tell you what I'm thinking, and good luck figuring it out. Instead, say, that's a very interesting way to look at things, and it might be serving you very, very well. Let me recommend something else, or let me add to that. So it's always fun to add to something. If someone gives you their point of view and you say, can I add to it? No one's ever going to say no. No one's ever going to feel insulted because you added something to it, unless they have a major issue, at which point delete them from your life. Control, Alt, delete, bye-bye. All right? And then finally, get some jokes, something fun. Find where your humor is and build up on it. And that's about it. So I hope that was very helpful for you today. It was kind of short, straight to the point, a lot of tips. I wish there was a much more interesting way to engage with live sessions. Hopefully you guys will be more and more confident to come on live with me. And God bless you. I wish you an incredible day. Have a beautiful weekend. And if you have any questions, you know to reach out for me. All right? I hope this was fun for you. Let me just throw on some music and check with... There we go. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, 47 minutes of a conversation with you beautiful, incredible, and lovely people. And I love you. Thank you so much for taking time out for what I'm sharing with you. And I hope it's serving you. And I look forward to seeing you next week, next Friday on Honest Conversations. Join me as a guest, guys. I would love to hear from you, so I do less talking and more listening. God bless you. Take care of yourselves. Be great. Be awesome. And just